Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist is a real emotional roller coaster of a show. It makes us all laugh, cry, and particularly dance. And that is very appropriate for today because I am with choreographer extraordinaire Mandy Moore, who not only choreographs all the awesome dancing on the show, but is also an executive producer on Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. Now, I'm Rob Lucuria, senior editor at Gold Derby. I'm here with Mandy. And Mandy, first of all, I think the one thing that I can say about this show without any hesitation is that now is the perfect time for a show that makes us feel something and not have to worry about being ironic or sarcastic or sassy. It's just earnestly, honestly, open and emotional. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when I was first reading about, when I got the pilot scripts, that was the first thing that jumped out to me is just the amount of heart that this show has, it doesn't pretend to be anything than what it is. It's just humans trying to navigate their feelings, and especially Zoe, played by Jane Levy, is just this girl that I feel like everybody might know in some way. It's like your sister, your cousin, your girlfriend, your friend. And I just love that the idea of getting to know someone's inner thoughts, and then of course having them told through song and dance is like the way I see the world anyway. So it was kind of a perfect fit. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful family story too, and I think so many of us right now are in this time where we're either, cooped up in our places alone, or we're cooped up with our families. And I think just to have kind of an escape that also feels very rooted and grounded at the same time is this oddly beautiful moment for Zoe's and the fans, I think.
And when the show was being made, we were already in a very polarized, kind of angry world where everyone was in their own camp and there was no kind of connection. And then we ended up in a global pandemic when we were starting to actually consume the show on a Sunday night. That's pretty incredible timing for a show like this to be airing just when we kind of need a show like this to be airing.
Oh, for sure. And I could be Pollyanna about this because it's my world anyways, but I think there's nothing better than honest storytelling along with great songs that people know and love, and then adding the visual element of that song being brought to life through dance and beautiful acting and movements. It's to me was a win-win with this show from the beginning, and the fact that it came up, that we actually premiered at a time when people were forced to be inside and to consume television and to be together. I think it's universal truths, right? Like Zoe talks about universal feelings and truths that people have felt, either are feeling right now or have felt at a time, or know they will feel. So I think, it just was honestly perfect timing. I don't know how that happened, but I'm so proud and so happy.
Yeah. But when I'm watching it, it makes me realize that a lot of people do struggle with empathy and kind of putting themselves in someone else's shoes and understanding how they feel, because we all have internal lives, right, that we don't necessarily share with people, and perhaps maybe that's part of the problem in society. This show pierces through that, I think. Was that one of the kind of the aims that you and Austin had with trying to bring the show to life?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, life is already difficult to navigate, right? From day to day, just being a human on the planet, we all have different struggles. And, what the struggle is of your neighbor, you can't necessarily compare it, but as you start to understand what maybe they're going through, it somehow shines a light on what you are also going through and what you're trying to navigate. And I know from the beginning with Austin, it was always about wanting to understand people and where they come from and what they feel and see and think. And this all was really told through the eyes of how he felt when his dad was going through the progressive disease that he had, and wanting to be able to communicate to him, and almost wanting him to be in Austin's shoes and he to be in his dad's shoes, and wanting to see and connect to this man that was so vibrant and so alive, and just hoping that inside that body that was not, was continuing to get into a worse and worse state, that he would also within that mind be feeling so vibrant and alive and sad and happy and all the things he couldn't communicate, but he was hoping he was still feeling.
Yeah. You recently tweeted to showrunner Austin Winsberg that your time on the show has changed your life. Talk us through what you meant by that.
Well, first of all, I come from prior to doing Zoe's, I'd done most of my work has been with variety and film, variety live and film. And so to first of all, just work in a scripted series where I'm having to turn around work so quickly, that's number one, was a big change. But then also those of us that were a part of Zoe's really became a very strong family unit. I mean, funny enough, just hours before I had this interview, all of us were on a text chain just videoing each other saying, hey man, I miss you. And those, it's hard to explain, but those moments in rehearsal and those moments of creation with a story that we all felt so passionately about really does change you in some way. That I am forever changed by my time with the Zoe's family. And I hope, that if we come up with a season 2, which, fingers crossed we do, I'm coming into that season with more knowledge of not only my craft, but just myself and how I feel about the world and situations. I've never had to create a number about, losing or never had to create like our last number in the finale, this 6-minute story of how people were dealing with the death and the grief and this family and how the community came together. I've never had to physicalize that as a creator, so I'm changed by that because I am who I am as a creator and an artist. So, I just was lucky, man. These people were good people, good humans, good artists. So, yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the season finale, actually, because it reminded me that that whole sequence when Mitch, is passing away and Zoe is dancing with him is very moving. You could see the outpouring of grief on social media. Like, it was incredible. Yeah. It reminded me, though, there's really 2 questions. The first one is, dance does a lot in terms of storytelling. Like, a lot of people don't realize how much you're actually doing as a choreographer by really getting us into the emotion of what was going on there. So can you talk us through what you were trying to go for in that very long and, to me, quite complicated sequence?
Right. Well, I love, first of all, that you pointed that out. Thank you very much. Dance can live in so many different ways. And I think a lot of the times dance on television can just be used as, like, I'll just call it cherry on top. It's just movement, extraneous movement. That's great. And it's got sparkle and it's got this and that. And what I love from the beginning with Zoe's is that Austin wanted dance to be a huge part of the storytelling. So in that particular scene, and we've done this through the entire season of, dance lives in a number like, All I Do Is Win, where they're flat out dancing, showing off, to something as simple and as honestly narratively driven as that duet. When I created that duet with Jane and Peter, and I say with Jane and Peter because that was not the kind of a number where, Miss Mandy just says, okay, 5, 6, 7, 8, you go over here and you do that. I had to work with Jane and Peter and the director to really understand what emotion we were trying to convey, and then see, does this say what we're trying to say? Because basically her father is trying to shield her from those final moments, those really brutal final moments, and trying to make sure she is not seeing the kind of gross part of death, that she's just seeing him and her in his arms in those last moments, and that's what she'll remember. And again, obviously something as simple as a slow dance with a father and daughter also has a lot of parallels to a first dance, at a wedding, or a dance at New Year's Eve together. And, a lot of that I just created based off of the feeling that, what would I want to do with my dad in his last moments? How would I want to feel with my father? Because I'm really close to my father, and trying to see it through that lens, and then understand, obviously, with Jane and Peter and Austin and the director, what we wanted. It was a very actually emotional moment to create too, being in the dance room, because it seems so silly, but it's just like Peter is amazing. And also like knowing that he may not be with us as much all the time. It's like a really emotional time creating it. And, I thought it was shot very beautifully. And I thought that the way that we edited it together with kind of the remembering of the true colors and that thread, and this idea that the music, she's not hearing the music and them still dancing to their own music. It was just, I thought it was a really beautiful meld of all things coming together.
And then it pays off when it resonates with the audience. Like, I heard so much about it on social media and just in my own family and friends. What does that mean to you when you see the outpouring of grief and also people really resonating and enjoying the way that it came out?
Well, it's like the ultimate, like, I did my job, right? Like, it just feels great to know that you can create something and be a part of a team that creates something that affects people, that affects humans, that they watch it and they feel something. Because I think it's really hard in this day and age. There's so much coming at us with news and social and all the things that happen in our life, like that someone could watch something and be taken in that world and in that story. It's like a great book, right? It's like it's like writing a great book. If I could ever write, that's what I feel like. I would be like patting myself on the back if somebody really liked a novel. To me, that's what it is. I'm writing with dance. And so for someone to go along that story or along that path to that story is like, it's everything. And it's very moving to me to read, people's tweets or fans that reach out and say, like, I was bawling, I was crying. Great. That's what we wanted. We wanted you to go along that ride with us because we were too. And it was written that way. You were supposed to feel something. You're not supposed to just watch it as an observer. You're supposed to be with us in that moment. So yeah, then I just feel like, good, we did it, team.
Job well done.
Yeah.
It's not the first time that I think you've been able to say that. And if we look over your career to date, one of the favorite things that I have about this job is I get to tell people how their work affects me personally. And your choreography in La La Land was so inspirational, particularly Another Day in the Sun. Every time I'm having a bad day, I'll post something on social media with a photo of, everyone in the air or it's amazing, amazing. Talk us through your fondest memory of putting that together, because it's now become quite an iconic moment in film.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you. I'm blushing because you're saying all this amazing stuff. So thank you. That number was, well, first of all, you don't set out to make something iconic, right? You just set out to do something that you believe in. And, in my initial conversations with Damien, our director, Damien, it was so apparent that this was these people on this freeway I was one of those people. It's about dreamers, right? It's about people that are making it day to day, and they maybe love playing guitar and want to sing on a stage, but the way they pay the bills is they, work a job that they don't necessarily love, but that dream, that thing inside of all of us is what makes us get out of the car and dance in our life, right? And so for me, well, first of all, also the music. I mean, come on, the music was beautiful and the way it was shot, but I'm looking back at it now. I think at first I didn't understand why people were so drawn to it, but now that I'm, away from it and I'm not so critical of my own work as any artist is, I really look at it and think, wow, it is such an inspiring piece, because it does. I think each one of us inside have had that moment where you just want to literally get out of the car and dance. And you're like, I'm more than this. I'm more than sitting in my car in traffic on, a Friday at 5:00. I'm more than just, clocking in and clocking out. I am a more fully realized human. And to me, that number was just a reflection of that. It was all about, you want to get on a car and dance in your dreams. It's like I have dreams about dancing across mountains. That's not going to happen for me probably ever. But the idea that is inside possible to me is part of what makes my everyday, my in and out of every day, so happy and so carefree, is because I think I can get on a car and dance. I mean, we did literally, but you want to inside, right? And I think you got to keep that as a human, because if you don't, then we're all dying slowly, man. You gotta keep that alive.
Oh yeah, so true. Let's talk a little bit about awards now while we've got you, because that's generally what we are obsessed about at Gold Derby. Now, the first one is you've done extensive work on awards shows. And for all of us nerds that love watching award shows, thinking back to some of your great musical numbers, do you have a favorite one or one that you're most proud of?
Well, actually, I'll say two, because they're very different. Of course, doing La La Land on the Oscars was a dream come true. I mean, for a kid that comes from a small town in Colorado, to be on that Oscars stage, rehearsing these dancers that I know and love to, songs from a film that I will forever be grateful for being a part of, was just like I mean, talk about just dream. So that one for me was first. But the second, shoot, I was going to say three. The La La Land parody of Jimmy Fallon was really fun to create, the La La Land parody that he did. Because also he was a huge fan of the film. So it was just cool to like geek out with him about geeking out about the film, so that was fun. And then, I did a really funny one with Stephen Colbert for the Emmys a couple years ago, and he's just a dream and very funny. His writers are very funny. So I also love when dance can have a bit of comedy and fun. And I was very lucky to do some really cool award show performances. So,
So memorable. As the TV Academy just introduced its outstanding choreography for a scripted program last year, you're one of two representatives on the governor's board, in case people weren't aware, and I assume you had a lot to do with its inception. What was behind how the category was ultimately structured as a juried award?
Yeah. So, first of all, we've only had our own peer group as choreographers at the Television Academy for 4 years. So we're still a very baby peer group, and I was a part of that inception of creating that. Because I also thought, this is ridiculous. How do we not have our own peer group? We have an Emmy, but how do we not have a peer group? So as we started to as we grew our numbers in the peer group, we realized obviously very quickly that, much like other categories, it's apples and oranges. The way you create for variety and live as a choreographer is a very different skill set than creating for actors and scripted. So we, from the start, have been trying to figure out how to go to the board and organize, because there's so many things that go into, getting these things. It's not as easy as just going to the board and saying, hey, can we have our own category? You're like, that's not how that works. So we realized that the best step for us was going to be, instead of going to the board and saying, hey, can we just have a second category? We went to the board and said, could we have a second category that is a juried award, so that we can continue to show the Board of Governors that the number of submissions that are coming in is raising, which is true. Every year we have more and more scripted submissions. And in the hopes that maybe in the next year or next couple years, we can actually have a full-fledged nominee voting round for scripted, because as of right now, it's only Variety Live that has the 5 nominees, and then obviously scripted is a juried award. So, the cool thing though is there can be multiple winners in a juried, which is kind of cool. Yeah. So that was the thinking. Yeah.
Or none, but hopefully.
Or none. I mean, stressful. Hopefully not none.
I know, right? What were you? What do you think that you'll submit in that category for Zoe's?
Well, for Zoe's, I think that I'm going to do All I Do Is Win, because that's the big, it's very a Zoe number. And then I'm going to do I Got the Music in Me, which is hysterical, that big number with everybody. And my other one was going to be Crazy, from the Glitchy episode when she is in the lobby. I love that one. For me, that was my favorite one that I did, because I felt like it really combined all the things that I know and love about camera and dance and narrative, and I just thought it was shot so well. So yeah, that's probably my favorite. Final question is about your 7 Emmy nominations, nothing to sneeze at, and 2 wins in 2017 for Dancing with the Stars and in 2018 for So You Think You Can Dance, which I think is one of the greatest reality competition shows ever. We have our own in Australia too. Which one's better, the first Emmy or the second one, where it's like more of a, we really love you? That's a really good question. And also, your So You Think is amazing in Australia. I so wish I could have worked on that, because it's amazing, by the way. You have amazing dancers in Australia. Okay, so this is going to sound odd. Well, first of all, the first Emmy you get, I was blown away, sweating, nervous. I think I screamed on stage. It's like, you just can't even imagine that you're getting this. It just seems like a weird pipe dream. But I will say that my second Emmy, the one for So You Think, really meant so much to me, because you said I've been nominated 7 times, and I've been with So You Think since season 1, and to win for So You Think just felt like I did it. I can't believe it. I did it. And so for me, that one just, was a combination of hundreds of numbers I've done on camera, for them. So that one meant a lot, I would say. And yeah, I mean, the second one, you're like, oh, it wasn't a fluke. Like, okay, maybe I do know what I'm doing.
They actually meant it. Mandy, I have a suspicion there'll be more Emmys to come for you, but in the meantime, we really appreciate all your work on Zoes, and congrats on a great first season, and fingers crossed for season 2.
Thank you so much. It's so good to talk to you. I appreciate it.
Now, everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions, and click subscribe because we have so many chats with amazing contenders just like Mandy.